Roman Reigns breaks silence after Seth Rollins steals CM Punk's legacy at SummerSlam 2025. You won't believe what the tribal chief had to say about Rollins and the shocking betrayal of wrestling tradition. In this explosive episode, we dive deep into Roman Reigns' reaction to the chaos that unfolded at WWE SummerSlam 2025. Seth Rollins may have walked out with CM Punk's legacy, but he also woke a sleeping giant. Was this Rollins' boldest move yet, or his biggest mistake? Under the blazing lights of WWE SummerSlam 2025, the world watched in awe as Seth Rollins did the unthinkable. In what can only be described as one of the most polarizing moments in recent wrestling history, Rollins stepped into the ring not only to win, but to steal a legacy. A legacy once guarded fiercely by a man who stood for rebellion, for truth, for a culture that lived in the cracks of corporate perfection, CM Punk. And on that fateful night, with the crowd on the edge of hysteria and the cameras rolling like a storm chasing thunder, Rollins didn't just defeat an opponent, he absorbed a myth. He walked out of SummerSlam not just as a winner, but as the self-proclaimed heir to CM Punk's soul, style, and symbolism. And somewhere far from the arena, in the shadows where legends lay dormant, a figure stirred the tribal chief. Roman Reigns had been silent. Until now, when Roman Reigns finally broke his silence, it wasn't through a press conference. It wasn't through a carefully managed WWE Network interview or a promotional tweet. It was raw, unfiltered, and chillingly personal. Sources backstage revealed that Reigns had been watching SummerSlam from a private suite, surrounded only by his most trusted circle. His eyes were locked onto the screen, jaw clenched, fingers steepled beneath his chin. Every second of Rollins' celebration, every mocking smirk, every gesture stolen from Punk's iconic mannerisms, seemed to etch deeper into the tribal chief's mind. And when it was over, when the crowd roared and Rollins stood tall over a battered opponent, Roman reportedly stood up, looked around the room, and muttered, "He just declared war." Insiders say Reigns vanished immediately after. No one saw him leave the suite. No one saw him exit the building. But what followed was silence, a silence that spoke louder than any promo ever could. The WWE Universe buzzed with questions. Where is Roman Reigns? What does he think about Seth Rollins appropriating CM Punk's legacy, especially after everything the Shield brothers have been through? For days, the speculation festered like an open wound. Fans flooded Twitter with theories, split between admiration for Rollins' audacity and outrage at what many saw as the defiling of wrestling heritage. But then, without warning, WWE released a grainy, dimly lit backstage video, never meant for public eyes, of Roman Reigns sitting alone in a locker room. No music. No entrance. Just a man, a legend, and a camera. He looked tired, but not weak. He looked calm, but not at peace. With his hands clasped together and a trace of fire behind his eyes, Reigns finally spoke. "You think you can take a legacy, like it's a souvenir? You think you can take a man's blood, sweat, and purpose and wear it like a costume?" His voice was low, controlled. But there was venom behind every word. CM Punk built something. Whether you liked him or not, he stood for something real. And now you, Seth, want to rewrite that story like it was yours all along. A long pause followed. You could hear the hum of the arena lights above him, the stillness of the moment suffocating. You've forgotten who you are, Seth. But worse, you've forgotten who I am. Those words detonated across the internet. Roman Reigns wasn't just angry. He was betrayed. Not by CM Punk. Not even by the WWE system. But by his own brother. The man he once walked beside in the most dominant faction of the modern era. The man who bled with him, rose with him, and now mocked everything they fought for. For Reigns, this wasn't just about CM Punk. It was about the sanctity of the business. The honor embedded in the war-scarred canvas. And to see Seth Rollins desecrated in front of millions? That was a declaration of blasphemy. Backstage staff reported that after recording that footage, Reigns didn't stay to watch anything else. He left, alone, declining to speak to anyone, not even Paul Heyman. And when Heyman was asked about Roman's reaction, all he offered was a knowing nod. "It's coming," he said cryptically. "You'll know it when it arrives." But what did Rollins have to say about all this? Did he expect this reaction? According to several sources close to creative, Rollins had pitched the entire legacy-stealing segment as a means of solidifying himself as the face of rebellion in a new era. He argued that CM Punk's absence left a cultural vacuum in WWE, a void of authenticity and counterculture spirit. And who better to claim it than Seth Rollins, a man who once broke the mold of what a WWE superstar could be. But what Rollins didn't account for was the emotional gravity, the tribal history, the brotherhoods and betrayals buried beneath the glitz. Rollins' move wasn't just theater, it was sacrilege to many. Even Punk's longtime fans, despite their mixed opinions on his final run, felt unsettled watching another man wear his scars. The post-match promo, where Rollins held up a replica of Punk's famous pipe bomb mic and smirked, "I'm the voice now," sent shockwaves through the fanbase. And that smirk, that subtle, smug moment, was enough to reawaken something buried in Roman Reigns, because for years, Reigns had fought the narrative. The fans chanted for Punk when Roman headlined. They booed Reigns for being corporate, for being chosen. And now, after years of earning respect the hard way, after conquering cancer, criticism, and competitors, Reigns watched as Seth Rollins embraced the ghost of the very man who haunted Roman's rise. That wasn't just theft. That was betrayal. The weeks following SummerSlam were filled with eerie silence from Roman's camp. No Raw appearances. No cryptic tweets. Just complete darkness. And as Seth Rollins basked in his controversial heat, parading through media circuits and fueling the fire with passive-aggressive barbs like, "Some people lead, others follow legends," fans began wondering if Roman Reigns would ever respond again. Had he been broken? Was this the final insult? Or was he simply preparing quietly, methodically, for something seismic? Then came the podcast. An unscheduled, underground interview uploaded to an obscure wrestling channel. No WWE branding. No filters. Just Roman Reigns, hoodie on, speaking freely. Seth is doing what he's always done. Trying to be everything to everyone, Roman said. But when you try to become everything, you lose yourself. He's not CM Punk. He's not the visionary. He's not even Seth Rollins anymore. He's a man hiding behind louder echoes. The interviewer asked Roman if this meant a match was coming. Roman's response? Chilling. "This isn't a match. This is a reckoning." That one phrase blew up across social platforms. #Reckoning trended for 48 hours. Fans, critics, and even WWE personnel began questioning if a new chapter in the Reigns-Rollins saga had just been carved from chaos. What began as a symbolic passing of the torch or theft of the flame, depending on who you ask, had turned into something far more dangerous, a war of identities. In private circles, some close to Reigns admitted that the SummerSlam moment unearthed a storm he'd long buried. One source explained, Roman doesn't just want to beat Seth. He wants to restore something. He believes this industry is being twisted into caricature, and Rollins' act was the final straw. As rumors of Roman's return to SmackDown swirled, WWE officials reportedly began preparing a creative arc that would culminate in what some are calling the final collision between honor and hubris. Reigns' potential return isn't about gold. It's about principle. And as fans worldwide debate over who truly deserves CM Punk's mantle, or whether it should have been left untouched, one thing becomes clear: the past isn't finished with us. It never is. CM Punk himself has remained silent on the matter. No tweets. No public interviews. Nothing. But sources close to him revealed that he was watching. And that he, too, saw what Rollins did. He wasn't angry, the source said. But he wasn't smiling either. Backstage, tensions are rising. Locker room whispers suggest that Reigns is preparing something theatrical, yet raw. Something that will make the wrestling world rethink everything it believes about legacy, loyalty, and the line between inspiration and imitation. Because if Roman Reigns does return, he won't be looking for redemption. He'll be looking for judgment. And in a world where stories are rewritten and legacies are borrowed like fashion trends, Reigns wants to remind everyone, especially Seth Rollins, that there's a difference between wearing a crown and earning it. The aftershocks of Roman Reigns' chilling statement, "This is a reckoning," had barely settled when something else sent tremors through the wrestling world. WWE posted a cryptic teaser video on social media, a black screen, a soft flicker of static, and a voiceover that fans instantly recognized. It was gravelly, controlled, and unmistakably Roman. "Legacy isn't something you steal," the voice said. "It's something you bleed for." No image, no logo, just those words. And then, silence again. Within minutes, #Reigns Returns began trending worldwide. Fan theories exploded. Was this leading to a match at Survivor Series? Would Roman confront Rollins face-to-face? Or was this all building toward something even bigger, perhaps the main event of WrestleMania 41? The truth was, even insiders didn't know. WWE had tightened its creative team, locking down leaks and withholding scripts from even senior producers. But what was becoming obvious, even to the most casual observer, was that Roman Reigns was not going to let this slide. What made this moment different wasn't just the personal betrayal, it was how deeply Roman had evolved since his Shield days. This wasn't the same Roman who chased titles or stood silent while Heyman spoke for him. This Roman had tasted vulnerability. He had stared down cancer, endured boos in every arena, survived the collapse of the bloodline, and watched as the industry tried to replace him over and over. Through it all, he had emerged with a new kind of power, not just tribal authority, but mythic presence. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need to hold a belt to feel like a king. But when he saw Seth Rollins use CM Punk's legacy like a prop, something inside him cracked. Not from weakness, but from memory. To understand why Roman's reaction hit so deeply, you have to remember what CM Punk represented. Punk wasn't just a voice. He was the voice of the voiceless. He called out WWE's politics, exposed its hypocrisies, and spoke for fans who felt left behind. His infamous pipe bomb wasn't just a promo, it was a revolution wrapped in truth. And though Roman and Punk never had a deep in-ring feud, they were bound by a spiritual tension. Reigns had once been the corporate golden boy, Punk, the rebel messiah. Yet over the years, their stories bent toward a strange parallel. Both had walked away from WWE at some point, Punk by choice, Roman by health. Both returned changed. And now, ironically, it was Seth Rollins, once overshadowed by both men, who tried to fuse their legacies into his own. It wasn't just Reigns who felt the weight of that theft. The locker room, too, was divided. Some younger talent admired Rollins' guts. They saw it as symbolic, out with the old, in with the new. But others, especially those who came up idolizing Punk or respecting Roman's hard-earned dominance, saw it as an insult. One rising star, speaking anonymously, told reporters, "We all want to make an impact. But you don't spit on a flag to raise your own." The tension reached a boiling point when Roman Reigns made an unannounced visit to WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Security footage, leaked days later, showed Roman entering the building flanked by two unnamed men, one believed to be Zilla Fatu, the other possibly Jacob Fatu. They didn't speak to anyone. They didn't take meetings. Reigns went straight to Vince McMahon's old boardroom, where Triple H was reportedly in the middle of a creative meeting. Witnesses said the meeting stopped cold. No greetings. No small talk. Just Reigns dropping a single folder on the table. Inside that folder, a proposal for a match. Not a title match. Not a gimmick. But a legacy trial. The concept? A no-holds-barred, unsanctioned bout between Reigns and Rollins, not for championships, but for identity. For lineage. For the right to wear the scars of CM Punk, of the Shield, of everything that had made and broken them both. Triple H reportedly stared at the folder for a long moment before looking up at Roman and asking, "Are you sure you want to go that far?" Roman's reply, "He already did." Meanwhile, Seth Rollins kept leaning into the chaos. He mocked Roman in interviews. Wore a hoodie with "Voice of the Voiceless 2.0 written across the back. On Raw, he strutted to the ring using CM Punk's old entrance music mixed with his own theme, triggering a deafening mix of boos and cheers. In one promo, He laughed at the camera and said, "Roman Reigns? He's not silent because he's dangerous. He's silent because he's finished." But what Seth didn't realize, or maybe he did and didn't care, was that Roman Reigns had been quiet for a reason. Not because he lacked a response, but because his response wasn't going to be a tweet, a promo, or a soundbite. His response was going to be biblical. Behind the scenes, Reigns began crafting something monumental. Not just a match, but a movement. He contacted former Shield allies and enemies. Not to join him, but to testify, to reveal who Rollins truly was behind the curtain. He reached out to Heyman, who had stayed neutral through the ordeal, and reportedly said, "This isn't about manipulation anymore. This is about truth." And the truth, as Roman began assembling it, was messy. Stories emerged from years ago, times when Seth took credit for decisions he didn't make. Times when he undercut others backstage to secure a push. Times when he publicly supported Punk, then privately mocked his departure. Roman wasn't just preparing for war in the ring, he was preparing for court. A trial of character. A revelation of identity. A chance to strip Seth Rollins of every borrowed line, every mimic gesture, and every ounce of faux rebellion he had claimed as his own. The date was set quietly. Off-air. Known only to a handful of WWE's top creative minds. A segment was scheduled for an upcoming SmackDown titled Judgment of Legacy. Fans had no idea what it meant. But those within WWE knew. This would be the night Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins finally came face to face, not as brothers, not as rivals, but as two ideologies ready to collide. When the night came, the arena was packed. The lights dimmed. The video package aired. Images of the Shield's formation, of Punk's pipe bomb, of Roman's cancer return, of Seth cashing in at WrestleMania, of boos, cheers, titles, betrayals. Then silence. Then Roman Reigns' music hit, not the tribal war drums. Something else. A slow, orchestral remix of his old theme, reborn, stripped of arrogance, charged with solemn power. He entered alone. No pyro. No smirk. Just a look that froze the entire arena. Then came Seth Rollins, in full regalia, mocking every moment. He wore tights designed with Punk's lightning bolts and the Shield's tactical pattern. He smiled like a man who thought he had already won. The crowd was thunderous, divided, emotional. Signs everywhere read, "You're not Punk, Rollins equals fraud," and "Tribal justice incoming." As they stood in the ring, face to face, neither man spoke for a full minute. The tension wasn't just thick, it was historical. Finally, Roman raised the mic. "You wanted attention. Now you've got it. But this isn't attention you survive." Rollins laughed, raised his mic, and replied, "Oh, I'll survive, Roman. I'll outlive every myth, including yours." The match was not sanctioned that night. No ref. No bell. Just fists. And what followed was more than a fight, it was a statement. Chairs. Tables. Blood. Chants of "This is awesome" and "This is real" echoed through the arena as Reigns and Rollins tore each other and their history apart. It wasn't about wins or losses. It was about exposure. Stripping away the personas, the gimmicks, the promos, and forcing each man to stand naked in the face of their own past. By the end of the night, both lay broken. But Roman was the one who stood. Barely. Bruised. Bloodied. But standing. And as he looked down at Seth, who clutched his ribs and muttered something inaudible, Roman said into the mic one last time, "You can't steal a legacy. You have to survive one." Then he dropped the mic and walked away. The aftermath of that night sent ripples far beyond WWE arenas. Wrestling forums, podcasts, and news outlets across the globe erupted in debate, analysis, and awe. Some called it the greatest unsanctioned segment in modern wrestling. Others called it a way-up call, an overdue reckoning for a business that had blurred the lines between authenticity and performance for too long. But no matter what side of the fence you stood on, one truth was undeniable. Roman Reigns had made his return, not with spectacle, but with purpose. He had spoken not with arrogance, but with conviction. And in doing so, He reminded the world that sometimes silence is just a storm waiting for the right moment to strike. Seth Rollins did not appear on Raw the following Monday. Instead, WWE aired a cold open, slow-motion footage of the match, accompanied by somber piano music. No voiceover. No commentary. Just the raw imagery, Roman's stare, Seth's bloody grin, the final mic drop. It felt less like wrestling and more like cinema. A requiem, not just for a feud, but for an era. Fans were stunned into silence. Even the harshest critics who had accused WWE of recycling stories and pushing shallow drama had to admit, this was different. This was layered. This was personal. In the weeks that followed, Seth Rollins remained absent from in-ring action. He posted a single message on social media. No photo, no caption, just 3 words. He's not wrong. The wrestling world exploded once more. Did this mean Rollins regretted what he'd done? Was he admitting guilt? Or was this yet another psychological ploy in the long game he and Roman were playing? Speculation abounded. But WWE's silence only fueled the fire. No official statement. No update on Rollins' condition. Just a sense that something profound had shifted within the heart of WWE's most charismatic villain. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns appeared exactly once. A brief, unscheduled segment on SmackDown, standing backstage in a hallway with nothing but shadows behind him. He looked directly into the camera and said, "Legacy isn't built in one night. It's tested, every single time someone tries to take it from you." Then he walked off, leaving behind nothing but silence and a trail of anticipation. The message had landed. Loudly. Roman Reigns wasn't interested in titles anymore. He wasn't interested in tribal ceremonies, bloodline politics, or championship gold. He had transcended that phase. What he sought now was something far more elusive: truth. And in his eyes, Seth Rollins had become the embodiment of everything wrong with the modern wrestling ethos. Performance over principle. Imitation over originality. Noise over meaning. But this reckoning wasn't just about one man. It set a precedent. Other superstars began confronting their own borrowed identities. A backstage promo from Kevin Owens referenced it directly, saying, "We've all worn M.